Hey y'all, what's up? It's your boy George with Faith Nation. Today I was just kind of thinking on my own, and I was like, that movie, The Matrix. I don't know if any of y'all seen The Matrix. I actually haven't seen the whole thing, but I've seen enough of it to be like, I was thinking about that Matrix movie in terms of what it might mean for Christianity, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I think it's a really interesting movie, of course, or for what I've seen of it. But the whole idea of The Matrix is that is, there's something else controlling our reality or whatever, or whatever reality is sometimes. But like, so there's something controlling our world, and I just feel like in the movie The Matrix, they're like, these computer simulations are kind of controlling reality, or these programmed, high tech, computer entities, monsters really, like control the Matrix. What is the Matrix? Well, the Matrix is everywhere, they say, and like the Matrix is everything and everywhere, and it's really controlled by some like computer entities. I'm not sure if that's always like true of our reality or whatever, but if I replace a computer entity with Satan, if I say that Satan like controls the universe, which is kind of more or less suggested in the Bible, actually, in some ways, that it's Satan who controls the so-called world. And that if you can't stand to gain the whole world and suffer the loss of your soul or whatever. That's what Jesus said in the desert to Satan, as Satan was tempting Jesus with the world or whatever. He said, "Join me, and you can have the whole world." And this is what Jesus says is wrong about joining Satan. Like you can't have the whole world and suffer the loss of your soul. Was what I was really thinking about. So I'm guessing that Satan, whether or not Jesus would have disputed or not, probably controls the world, and like kind of sugarcoats it to seem like he doesn't really, or like that he's that God is even still in control or something. And in other words, like when people say that God is everything, that is everything that happens to you is because of God or whatever, I like to kind of debate it kind of softly and be like, you know, even according with the movie The Matrix, like if you just replace computer simulations that control the universe with Satan, the whole movie makes sense, is what I'm saying. So, or it makes sense for a Christian or whatever. So, like, God might like have some influences on reality, but just because God influences reality in places or something, doesn't mean that Satan doesn't still control, like the money supply, the country, and like low key, right? Or and he kind of sugarcoats reality with with goodies and fun sometimes. Now, which I'm not saying are bad things, but he kind of sugarcoats reality with goodies and fun just to be like God's still in control or whatever. Or he sugarcoats things as Satan with impressions and other things like uh. So that's kind of how I viewed the movie The Matrix. Like even when Morpheus goes to Neo and he's like, you can either stay in the Matrix and like live a comfortable life, or you can like know the truth or whatever. The truth is sometimes this impressionistic idea that Satan gives us, or that is like the impressions are what Satan gives us to like distort the truth or whatever. That God is real and that God has bearing in many ways on reality. Um, so I definitely don't know everything about the idea itself, but if you watch the movie The Matrix and just replace computer simulations with Satan, like maybe Satan really does control reality. Is all I'm saying. Maybe Satan really does control reality, and that's why all these terrible things sometimes happen in our jurisdiction of reality. So to ascribe all these bad things to God would really at the end of the day like negate the fact that God is all loving or whatever, and that God actually loves humans, but like something went wrong. Is all I'm saying. Something went wrong to the point where Satan is now in control of like the Matrix or reality. So the Matrix is everywhere, and Satan is manipulating you constantly with deception. He's manipulating you into believing things which aren't true of God, and of other things too, and of Christianity in general, and like uh I can get into some of those later, but um but Satan is really out there just to tell you that God is evil sometimes, and God doesn't want what's best for you, and these things are ultimately kind of lies and false. But he's very good at painting the picture, if you know what I mean. He's very good at painting reality such that these things really look true of God. Now, on the side note, nobody really knows what happened to God. Nobody really knows what happened to God at this point if Satan controls the whole matrix or whatever. To escape the matrix, you have to almost escape it ideologically first. You have to escape it as though you know that Satan at that point is in control of it. It is in control of even some of your thoughts, and he's actually trying to warp you and twist you into believing him. And you can't submit to that, is what I'm saying. You can't submit to Satan at that point, because Satan actually wants you dead and in a ditch and dead. And God is real, but we don't really know what happened to God at that point, is all I'm saying. God doesn't really cause our suffering. Satan causes it. One thing I like to forget about, actually, is the book Job, because I think Job is actually a really confusing book here. But this is all I'm trying to say about the movie The Matrix. The Matrix kind of sets up that right frame of mind for thinking about modern Christianity in a way. Who's really in control? It's hard to say it like you mean it sometimes, but all I'm saying is that Satan might really be in control of the Matrix or whatever, and that we shouldn't submit to that. We shouldn't submit to Satan being in control at that point. We definitely shouldn't, because Satan is evil. Satan is the evil one. We don't know necessarily in the sense what happened to God in many ways, and why God has left Satan in control of the world, which leads to people getting cancer and getting hurt in car wrecks and all sorts of random things that seem random in the Matrix but are really determined by Satan, or divorces or whatever it might be, or just bad accidents in life too. So it's sometimes hard to believe that God isn't everything, that God is actually not the entirety of creation. We are images of God, and that much is perfectly true. We're images of God, but we're here to probably fight Satan at that point, because something happened in the Matrix or whatever, the deep web of the Matrix, such that God lost control or maybe lost control or gave it to Satan, and at that point, Satan is in control of reality. Maybe it's hard, or he's at least in control of our world, is what I mean. And when Jesus says you're picked out of the world as Christians, that means that you're still God's children. You're still a part of God. But the world itself is full of Pharisees and Sadducees and heathen and all sorts of people, and people of other religions too, who aren't really Christians. So they're not necessarily God's children sometimes, depending on what they believe and such. And those people are more of the world. They're really quite grounded in the world and all the worldly lusts and everything. But you as Christians are kind of picked out of the world. And this is what I mean. You're kind of not really part of the Matrix in this sense. You're not part of this thing, which is and the Matrix only wants to grab hold of you. It only wants to bring you back into it with all the lusts of the world and the deceptions about what you might believe as Christians, and it loves to grab hold of you, is all I'm saying. So as a Christian, you have to learn to recognize when the world is grabbing hold of you. A lot of times it's with lust. Lust is the one real key way that the world likes to grab hold of you. So don't let that stop you from doing what you have to do as a Christian to get out of the at least ideological matrix of these bad things happen because of God. See, that's a part of an ideological matrix. Even when you say God is everything, it might kind of be a Satan ploy in a way. It's probably true that God created the universe, but God is not one to ascribe to him all the suffering that's going on in the world. God only wants what's best for the world and for its people, and it's something therefore went wrong at some point, and that's where it landed us with the Matrix and Satan controlling the Matrix and the world. So this is the only point I want to bring up. I thought it was really interesting about that movie, as I try to kind of interpret it with some Christian theology about it. I think the movie kind of sets up nicely for how the nature of the world is not friendly in a way. The nature of the world is not quite friendly in the sense that it's in the Matrix, controlled by these computer simulations or whatever. And when you just replace computer simulations with Satan in the movie, it kind of makes sense that like even Christians have power like Neo. I feel. I mean, I've been through a thing where I actually did a jump onto a train and I survived it, and like at that point I knew that like Christianity and faith had a kind of power to it. Though I'm not necessarily saying I'm really Neo or whoever. Sure, but like but I mean, all I'm saying is that Christianity, Christians might really have power to manipulate and like bend the matrix to its will, but Satan loves to take away that power. Satan loves you to like think that you're powerless and all that. Like when people say that Satan likes to take away your power, it's probably really true. You have indelible power behested upon you by your creator, but you don't know it yet. You don't know its extent, and you don't know why you can't channel it in light of what's going on in the world, and why you may feel bound in this like corporeal like prison or whatever sometimes they say. So the lessons here are like, one, the Matrix is everything, maybe in the sense of the movie The Matrix, and two, just replace simulation monsters with Satan or demons, even angels and demons, like demons, and you have like the truth that Satan is in control of your world, and warping it and sugarcoating it to seem like he's not, right? So he's trying to convince you that he's not really in control, that God is maybe even in control and causing all this suffering to people. All I'm saying really is that your suffering is not necessarily due to God at all. God doesn't really want suffering for anybody. This is the whole point of the Christian interpretation of the Matrix. Satan is in control of your reality and is warping you into believing bad things about like God and other people and those who suffer, like the like in the past it was like the blind man and the lame man and the sick man and the boy sick with palsy and the leper, but now it's like even like people who suffer even have a kind of stigma, including sometimes our veterans and people with cancer and children with cancer. And so don't be warped against helping people with suffering or anything like that either, and don't be warped in those ways to thinking like these people are just losers or something. Like, don't be warped in those ways either. But all I'm really saying is that when you really think about these things, don't just attribute them to God. Your first line of thinking is to attribute these sufferings and the sufferings of yourself and the sufferings of others to God. This is not really in line with my view of things in light of the Matrix, maybe. So maybe God doesn't want everybody suffering, and this is a good point about him. God is loving. God is a loving God. And this is something very important for Christians to believe at some point in their life, if not their whole life, is that God is a loving, true to the book God. And this is all what Jesus kind of says. One, you're picked out of the world, so you're not a part of the matrix of it, like Neo. And like Neo, you're not a part of the matrix. And you have indelible power beyond the extent that the programmers of the Matrix want you to know, okay? And yeah, that's pretty much it. And Satan is in control of the Matrix, but God is in maybe control of the ultimate reality surrounding it. He knows the Matrix is here, but has maybe even left Satan for some reason we don't know in control of it. But we have to kind of fight Satan. That's why we're here. We have to fight Satan and not be twisted by his lies, his deceptions surrounding other people, other Christians, and God himself. So we got to see past those lies ideologically, is all I'm saying. And that's really how you escape the Matrix right now. You have to see past this ideological lies surrounding God. See, the Bible is maybe sometimes not enough to believe in sometimes. You really have to put the thrust of belief on the fact that you know God is a little bit loving, and that all the suffering couldn't be caused by God at the end of the day. So this is all I wanted to say about it. I think this movie is very valuable in many ways, especially to simulation ideas and all that, and computers in the modern world. But it's also a very valuable interpretation of Christian theology, which, Neo is not part of that world. He's not part of the matrix which surrounds him. But he can bend it and manipulate it. But we don't know how to do that always yet.